Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, guys. This is Running Around Jerusalem, episode 6, and we are here in Valley of the Cross. And it's very exciting because actually the Festival of Tabernacles, as we speak, or Sukot. Michael, where are we running today, man?
Well, we are going to run towards one of my favorite neighborhoods, Nahlaot, which is full of all kinds of narrow alleyways, and we are going to see tons of Sukot all over the balconies,
Booths.
The tabernacles, hence the Feast of Tabernacles, right? It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be fantastic. Also, my parents live there, so we might run into them on the way. Come run with us.
All right, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, come on, let's go. All right, man. So here we are, Valley of the Cross. And also, I know this place very well because one, it's my local running route, and two, this is the end stretch of the Jerusalem Marathon. This is like the last bit when you're speeding up right towards the end.
Speeding up this hill.
Up this hill, yeah. That's always the fun bit. So why is this called, Valley of the Cross? What's the?
Because as we see right in front of us, you have a monastery.
Yeah.
That building itself is about 1,000 years old from the Crusader period, built on top of Byzantine remains, just like many of the churches around here.
Yeah, it's a common denominator in Jerusalem, yeah.
And it's called the Valley of the Cross because this is the traditional spot where they took the tree from which the cross came.
I see. So the wood for the crucifix of Jesus came from this valley.
That's right.
Right.
And there's an ancient legend that says that the tree was planted by Lot, who was Abraham's nephew.
Right.
As a way of atoning for his deeds of sleeping with his daughters.
I see.
And he watered it every single morning without fail, never missed a morning, and it grew to be this weird tree that was a combination of cedar, cypress, and pine.
Uh-huh.
And that's where they took the cross from.
Okay, so obvious question. How do we know this?
So, there's a theory that says that during the Byzantine times, you can imagine Joe Pilgrim comes,
I like Joe Pilgrim, he's a good guy.
Buys a piece of the true cross, gets back home to England, and runs into his friend Jane Pilgrim, who shows him her piece of the true cross, and they happen to be different types of wood.
Uh-huh.
So how did this work out? Well, you had a brilliant Byzantine shop owner, salesman, who came up with this incredible story in order to explain why everyone had different types of wood for the true cross. They say that enough wood and pieces of the true cross were sold in order to build Noah's Ark.
I see. So this story isn't really written down anywhere. It's kind of a legend.
The moral of the story is never believe what a tour guide tells you.
Or a tourism shop. As a general rule. Right, okay.
But in all seriousness, as we come back to it, Byzantine remains of a monastery here.
Yeah.
That's a pretty ancient tradition. So whether or not we talk about a tree that was a mutt tree, as you could say, could it have come from this valley?
Sure.
Why not?
Yeah. I mean, for all the people that are not Jerusalemites, we're, as the crow flies, about 3 kilometers from the old city. We're not far at all. And we're pretty much in downtown Jerusalem. Just, we have this great running path and park that cuts through it.
You think of like Central Park in New York, where you have like this,
So much smaller than Central Park. Divide by 100 and take off 20.
No, but you have like this nature refuge in the middle of the city. That's what I meant.
Yeah. So up to our left is all the university campuses and the museums, and up to our right is really the center of town. And about a year ago, they finished building this beautiful bike path, which I really like. And here basically ends the Valley of the Cross. And now we're leading into Gunsaka, which is, as you said, is kind of one of the main, or the main park of Jerusalem.
Right, this is where the marathon ends.
Right, this is, literally when you're, as you can see, you're running through us, you cut through the tunnel here, you go onto the grass that you're going to see after the tunnel by about 50 meters, and that's where the finish line is set up on this first field to our left. Yes, we don't have so many large open areas here in Jerusalem, and this is one of the main ones. As you can see, very used for walkers and runners at 7 in the morning.
So one little thing that's hidden in this park that a lot of people don't know about is there's actually a bird observatory.
Yeah, it's like up there.
It's up there near the Supreme Court building.
Yeah.
Israel is actually one of the best places in the world to do bird watching.
Correct.
Because you get like 500 million birds passing through here every year. We're right on the migration routes between 3 different continents. It's amazing. So here in Jerusalem, they have a little observatory. And I was here once actually on a Sukot and they did this incredible experiment. We brought this stuffed owl to the open field.
Right.
Stuck it down in the middle, and we all went around the sides to the trees.
Okay.
And you start watching around, and all of a sudden, you start to see dozens and dozens and hundreds of crows gathering all around.
Really?
And they would take turns kind of swooping down and getting closer and closer to this owl, which is this predator, until one of them had enough balls to actually knock into it. They realized that it was fake and they all disappeared.
That's hilarious.
One of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life.
That's a great one. I have to see that. Oh, we're gonna have to get someone to do that. The little beep you heard, guys, 1 kilometer, running very nicely. We're doing good. And so, as a general rule, right now we're during lockdown, so not many people out and about, but as a general rule, over the Tabernacles here at Gunsaka, is it the start and ending point of the parade?
No, this is the ending point. And
only the ending point, right?
What Daniel's talking about is that every year during the Feast of Tabernacles, during Sukkot right now, that there's this massive parade, a Christian parade, where you get people, delegations from dozens of countries all over the world, and they march through Jerusalem. Now, why are they doing that? Because it talks about in the Bible that on the Feast of Tabernacles, the nations of the world will come here to Jerusalem. And so this is a kind of a way of enacting this biblical prophecy. There's no temple yet or anything going on, but you still get this amazing march of people from all over the world coming to celebrate Tabernacles. The prophecy of all the nations of the world coming to Jerusalem during Sukkot actually appears in the book of Zechariah chapter 14. Now we actually read this chapter, or at least parts of it, on the first day of Sukkot, on the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles in the synagogue. But I want to draw your attention to one other verse that occurs earlier on in that same chapter. It says that a really long day will come when there is neither light nor darkness, just kind of cloudy and gray. And then at the time of dusk, he says, Yeh Or, says there will be light. Now there's a famous Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, and he has an incredible commentary on this verse. He explains it as follows. He says, there will be a day when all seems gloomy. The amount of light in the sky will resemble the times at both dusk and just before dawn. And people will not know, is it the dawn leading to the day or the dusk leading to the night? And just when it seems the everlasting night is coming, Yeh Or, a new day will dawn instead.
So that was the end of Gunsaka, and we're leading up into our kind of cultural part of the day, the old area of Nachlot, which is very old and full of alleys, and until about 20 years ago was hated so much that they want to bulldozer it and destroy it entirely. To my left and to my right is this area of Nachlot. Usually running around Jerusalem we deal with the real ancient stuff. This isn't quite that ancient.
Not quite. It's actually a conglomeration of about 30 different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
First ones which are built in the 1880s.
Yeah.
So it's among the first ones built outside the old city walls.
Correct, yes,
but not the first ones. The first two of the neighborhoods are called Ohel Moshe and Maskeret Moshe. Now, Moses, who do you think they're named after?
Moses Montefiore is an easy one, come on.
Moses Montefiore, our favorite British guy other than you, right? And there's a famous Israeli author, Shai Agnon, who writes a story about a woman that comes to visit Jerusalem. And she says that Jerusalem's a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there. Every neighborhood is named Moshe this, Moshe that. Right. So you end up walking from one Moshe to the other Moshe, and you miss the Moshe that you're looking for.
That's a good story, I like that one. So it became this kind of, as you say, hodgepodge of numerous areas boxed together, some of which are very, very closely packed, as we're going to run through in a minute. And
you've got everything from like hippies to like ultra orthodox.
Everyone. But it was in the 70s and the 80s, this area was considered to be such an eyesore, they wanted to bulldoze the entire thing and start again with new areas. Okay, so now we're into the alleyways. I'm going to lower my voice slightly because it's still quite early in the morning. Remember, right? There we go. And people obviously live both sides of us. And this became like one of the most fashionable, if not the most fashionable area in Jerusalem. And today it's one of the most expensive as well, which is very strange living in these very, very thinly boxed alleyways. It's almost like an old city feeling.
It's also funny because half of the additions that people make to their homes and everything are definitely not legal and not official.
No, yeah. Everything with building permits back in the 80s and 90s is very, very spurious. But it kind of is what it is at this point. It's a very, very funny little area. And we're coming up to one of the more beautiful areas in Nahlaot, which is Beersheba Street, which has this kind of amazing garden in the central way. And we spoke about how much we love community gardens. This is very much a good example of that. And at the top here, we have all these amazing booths.
Right, these are the Sukot that we're talking about.
Okay, people are actually sleeping, so we're gonna be quiet. Shh. Come with us, guys. Shh. And we're also gonna stay quiet because we're coming across. We're coming across people praying. Okay guys, we're gonna keep going straight and then we're gonna come to a left turn again. Okay, so we've seen the booths, we've seen people praying. Well, Mike will help us out a little bit. Give us a bit of background to Sukkot. What is this festival and what's the reasoning and why are we doing this?
Right, so Sukkot is a 7-day holiday. It's actually mentioned in the Torah in the 5 books of Moses.
Right.
And the idea being that you're around one of the major harvest times of the year. I want you to imagine you're a farmer. Okay, we've already talked about this. You're not a farmer.
No, definitely not. I keep coming back to this. Still not a farmer. It hasn't changed.
But in ancient times, there was agrarian society. People were farmers. You just had an incredible harvest. You're feeling pretty darn good about yourself now, right?
Uh-huh.
And at that moment in time, God tells you, okay, leave your house, build a temporary dwelling structure,
yeah.
And that's where you're going to live for the next 7 days.
Uh-huh.
You're not protected by walls, you're protected only by me, by the clouds of glory. So the time we're feeling good about ourselves, we're gonna go out and live in this exposed structure, because that's what the Israelites lived in the desert.
Right, when they left Egypt, right.
Exactly, so that's what we are commemorating here. And there are a lot of like interesting customs during this holiday. Number one, as you were mentioning back there, Jews will actually sleep in there.
Yeah.
You're also going to eat your meals in there, right? We're supposed to use these huts as if they were our houses. And that's the idea. In fact, you know, my daughter really loves sleeping in the sukkah. And the other night we slept in there.
That's very cool.
It's really amazing. And the other thing you'll see is that people, they will be, during the prayers, they'll be waving these palm branches and a little funny looking lemon called an etrog.
Yeah, which doesn't taste nice.
Right, they're called 4 species. And the idea being that this is one of the commandments of Sukkot, that we wave these things together. Some of them have taste, some of them have smell,
right.
Some of them have nothing. representing all different types of Jews. We all come together, we wave in every direction to show that God is everywhere, and voila, we have another way of commemorating Sukkot.
Right, which also ties us into the Christian Feast of Tabernacles, correct? Because there's some palm waving going on, isn't there? There's something going on there.
Well, a lot of it goes back to the service that was done at the temple.
Here's a great example, guys, check it out. Pretty nice.
A lot of this goes back to the service that was at the temple. The idea with the huge palm fronds and the myrtle and the willow branches they brought to the temple.
Right.
In fact, there's a great story towards the end of the Second Temple period where Jews were not so united during this time period, and the priest was performing something one way, and the masses figured it needed to be performed the other way, and to express their discontent, they all started hurling their etrogim at him. So you imagine, like, you're an actor getting pelted with tomatoes. This priest at the temple is getting pelted with these, like, little lemon-looking things.
Yeah, it's funny. I always laugh about that. As you may or may not know, watcher, an etrog before Sukkot costs around 100 shekels, give or take. And then once 7 days is over, it's completely worthless. People just dump them. And we gathered up all these ones, and we actually made ourselves etrog cello. We fermented them in vodka and sugar. It was actually very good. I really enjoyed it. Nachlot today is very hip and hippie, also has these ultra-Orthodox compounds, also has quite a large community of refugees from Eritrea and Somalia. So it really has like this huge melting pot of everyone. It's very, very amusing.
From Yemen who trekked across the desert in order to come here in the 1880s.
Right.
You have communities from Greece, from Iraq.
Efozema? Trumpeldor. It's that Trumpeldor behind you.
So kind. Thank you. God bless you.
Cheers. Happens in Jerusalem. All right, here we go.
One of the most famous people who lived there was a rabbi named Rabbi Aryeh Levine. But this guy is the one who, he went and visited the lepers at the leper colony. He was called the prisoner's rabbi because he went to the prison during the British time to visit all the underground. I mean, he was beloved by everybody. So I've got to share with you one of my favorite stories about Rabbi Aryeh Levine. He was visiting the prisoners one Friday night, as he usually did. He would go there and he would lead Shabbat services for them. And after the services, this communist prisoner comes up to him and says, "Rabbi, all of these people who come here, they're all fake, they're frauds. See that guy over there who's wearing that yarmulke, that kippah on his head? He just puts that on when you come here, just to appear a little bit more religious to you." And Rabbi Aryeh Levine turns to the communist guy and says, "Really? I never noticed what was on his head before. Because when I look at somebody, I look into their eyes and I see a beautiful soul." So Sukot, the other cool thing about Sukot is it's called Yom Simchatenu, right? It's like a festival of joy and happiness. And so there's big parties every night, dancing in the streets. It's pretty amazing.
Which is quite connected to the concept that we're entering the rainy season. Don't forget, guys, we are in the Middle East and we do have seasons and we do need our rain. And so this was kind of the induction of, God, can we have a good rainy season? Because otherwise we're screwed. Thank you so much.
And there are other holidays as well to help us mark these seasons. And there's 3 holidays, which we call the Shoshat Regalim,
right?
3 pilgrimage festivals,
correct,
where it says in the Torah that you're supposed to come to
Jerusalem.
3 times a year during these festivals.
Yeah.
The other ones are Pesach, Passover,
Yeah.
and the other one is Shavuot, or the Christians will know it as Pentecost.
Yeah. Which is a word that I can never pronounce. It doesn't look like a word. Yeah, go on.
But it's really amazing because today you actually see during these festivals, Jerusalem explodes with population. People actually do something.
Huge influx. All the hotels are packed out. Not so much this year, but hopefully next year it'll return to its normal.
Hopefully next year.
Yeah.
We're talking about these ancient festivals, but a lot of them, a lot of the prayers, a lot of the rituals that we do have to do with when we had a temple, right? But what happens when the temple gets destroyed is that we have to figure out a new way of gathering together and celebrating these festivals. And it's amazing that, this year, where we have this whole COVID thing, and we actually can't gather together at the synagogues so much, it's almost like, again, we have to reinvent how are we celebrating these festivals.
Correct. Hence you see plenty of people along our run, and we've seen it in a previous run as well, praying their morning prayers kind of in the middle of the street, because you can't have a certain amount of people indoors, so it kind of life carries on. So we're going to take a right onto King George Street, which we've seen before and spoken about. Run number 2, guys, check it out. And we're going to end up on one of the more sort of celebrated buildings in Jerusalem. Like, it's a big hit, most people come kind of see it, which is the Great Synagogue, right? Yeah,
it's a beautiful building. It's considered like the main synagogue as much as you can have a main synagogue, really. This is where essentially the chief rabbis will operate out of.
Correct. It's this huge, impressive building. It has a choir on festivals that sing. It's very, very cool. This is one of my favorite sites in Jerusalem. If we just pause 1 second, is that you get these tiny little places of business, and they have their own private booth outside, just sort of connected with the business. I find it very, very amusing.
This is actually the Chabad.
Well, it is the Chabad.
But every restaurant is going to have it.
Plenty of businesses have it. It's kind of fun. So this is this huge, impressive building that we can see up to our right, just towering over the skyline, which is the Great Synagogue. And we're going to hush it up a little bit again because people are praying first thing in the morning.
And here we go. And we're really fortunate that even though we are in lockdown here, that we can still go out running, which is not necessarily the case all over the place. And we love to be able to keep putting this content out for you guys to join us from home on the treadmill.
Okay, so we're opposite the Great Synagogue. This is the end of our run. Thank you so much for running with us. Check us out on Facebook, subscribe to Facebook, subscribe to YouTube, like the run. Please get up on there, give us some comments. We'd love to hear from you, from what you would like to see from Jerusalem and Israel generally. We ran today about 375. Decent run, coming up to about 4 kilometers, cutting through some alleys, lots of fun, especially on a festival day like this. Thanks so much, Michael.
It was a great run. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
And we'll see you next time.
Running around Jerusalem.
Jerusalem.
Don't take my thing, you bastard!